Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mosaic Podcast. Today, I have a guy that I just met literally 10 minutes ago. But something about what he's doing completely intrigues me. You know, the whole episode of what we do on this podcast is we take people who are in a situation that is just the situation that they're in at that moment. But the ones that have the ability to overcome that situation, the ones that have the ability to turn that situation into their advantage, are the ones that really make the difference in the world. And those ones can be everybody. Every single listener can look at the meaning they give to the situations that are happening in their life and change those meanings rather than become victimized by them. So today, I have my buddy now, because we've been talking already for 10 minutes. I already feel like he's my brother. His name is William Manzanares IV. And let me just read to you a little bit about him and what his book summary says of him. By the way, his book is I Can't Read. It's available on Amazon and must read. You got to get it. For those of you who can't read, read it on audio. For those of you who can read, buy it on hard and paperback or Kindle. But here's what it says. If not being able to read was a disease, it would be an epidemic. Millions of Americans can't read, but illiteracy often goes unacknowledged or unnoticed. If you are the parent or teacher of a child who struggles with reading, you know the painful way that illiteracy steals their confidence and robs them of the joy that comes from learning. William Manzanares IV, a member of the Puyallup Tribe. Did I get that even close?
Puyallup Tribe.
Puyallup Tribe in Washington State, wrote, I Can't Read to give the literacy conversation a much-needed jumpstart. William, who grew up unable to read and later learned that he had dyslexia, overcame these obstacles and transformed himself into a successful serial entrepreneur. That doesn't mean that he made cereal. It means that he kept going more and more and more. In this inspirational story, William shares strategic superpowers. We're going to talk about those, that worked for him in the hopes it will improve literacy for those who can't read. The book includes personal anecdotes to inspire kids everywhere, especially young Native Americans, to pursue their dreams. It is with complete joy and pleasure that I welcome you, William, to the Mosaic Podcast. Thank you for taking your time to be with us and to share with us your story. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, the 10 minutes before the recording was a great way to get to know you. I'd like to call you my pal as well.
We are pals. And it's amazing, really, isn't it amazing how little time it takes when we actually come from our hearts and care for each other and are able to really connect with each other? How little time it takes to actually feel that connection. Wouldn't you say that?
I would agree. When you let down your guard and are totally truthful with someone, it is only moments that it can take.
Yeah. So we're going to get into some of that because that's the convergence of what you do and what I do, which I always love to do, which is the way we connect and how we connect. But I'd like to go a little bit into your story, let people get to know you a little bit. This is about you. This is your hour. This is time for you to shine. Okay.
Well, thank you.
But I want to do it in a different way. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I think that's the question that every kid gets asked. And, you know, I think I went through the phases of wanting to be a doctor, fireman. My uncle was a fireman. You know, my dad was always pushing me towards a government job because you'd get retirement. Somewhere along the line, it became a businessman. And that probably...
Where along the line? Like when you were a kid just playing with trucks or dolls or whatever the heck you were playing with or running around, what did you think you were going to be?
It was going to be business because when I was playing, it was doing something of creation of a store in my room or selling something or turning something over. I had a self-awareness of where my parents were financially for some reason. I don't know if other kids do, but I knew we weren't like rich. Maybe because you'd go to your parents and say, hey, what about this? We don't have the money.
Right.
So for me, as far as I can remember, it was business, and I didn't know what that even meant. I didn't even know I didn't even know what entrepreneur was in the 8th grade. I learned that at the end of my 8th grade year. Like, I didn't know that phrase.
Yeah.
But for me, it was business. And I think it was that path of when you're being told in school, this is how you get a job, this is how you're going to get good grades. And you have that secret inside of you that you're struggling and you feel like you're faking it and you can't read very well and you feel like everything, it's your fault. Business became my outlet, became my go-to, my excuse, if you will.
So
I loved history. So it was looking at people who came to this country with nothing and then built up empires over their life.
So it's like the American dream. I mean, that's the whole thing of starting in a situation where your family doesn't have everything at once and wanting to grow through the American dream, whatever that is.
Yes.
To have everything you need and everything you desire and everything you want. So when did you first find out that you couldn't read?
The first time I noticed something was different was in the second grade. First grade, I struggled, I guess, enough. I do remember the story. I didn't put in my book, but my mom coming to me and saying, they want to hold you back 2 years. And I remember crying because we were just told we were going to be the class of 2000. And I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew I'd be different. So yeah. I don't know what she said to them, but I didn't get held back. But I do remember in the second grade, they held me back. That teacher put me back in first grade reading. And that's when I said, oh, wait, and I'm struggling amongst first graders still, and they're younger than me. You know, that age is everything when you're that age. You can see it. That's when I noticed. And then if you want to talk about the other big epiphany was in the third grade. My third grade teacher didn't like that. My mom even told me later in life, she really didn't like that they held me back 1 year because that gives me a disadvantage. So one time she called it out in front of the whole classroom when I was reading out loud that I'm actually doing well and give him a break because he skipped second grade reading and you didn't. But she didn't let me like slip behind the cracks. If I cried during class being lost, she would just be like, nope. And she'd give me extra time.
Wow.
After that, that's where I just didn't have that extra help because by 4th, 5th grade, you're supposed to know it and teachers don't assume you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. So what scared you the most about who you were and this new situation that you found that you weren't like other people or supposedly like other people and you couldn't keep up even though you knew in your mind, I'm going to be a businessman. I'm going to turn this around. Somehow as a kid, you knew you were going to have that ability. What was it that scared you the most about being different?
Public reading, because that's when your difference shines to everyone. It's when people who get annoyed with you not being able to sound out a word will say it to you. And that's where I started gaming the system. And I talk about this in my book, but it was I can't even remember the age, but all the memories combined in one. Let's just assume you're sitting in a classroom and you're supposed to be old enough to say these words and you're starting to stop and people are saying it out loud. Well, that's when I decided to start doing tricks where I would go around and whisper people, what is this word? And I would memorize it over and over and over and over and over and over in my head to say a word that I could say the day, that I probably read the day before. So public reading was the biggest survival mode of school where I would practice ahead of the reading when she counted out like, all right, we're going to start with John and Molly's going to then Molly and go that way. And then I'd have to count out patterns around the room and figure out because people would mess it up. So that was a system. And I'm not joking. I did that same system recently. I tried to take a class and I won't even get into what it was, but I quit it. But it was another public reading. I went, oh my God, I'm still doing this because I'm not going to be an adult making this mistake, even if I've done all this, because in that moment, it's humbling when you can't say a word in a small group. So that was the most terrifying moment of school because that's when you're called out.
Thank you for being so honest and for being so vulnerable. And I want to ask you to even go deeper if I may.
Let's do it.
And if any point in time, we're recording this. So if at any point in time, any question doesn't feel like it's appropriate, just tell me it's none of your business. We can cut it out. We can edit it out. And if it feels appropriate, let's try and, what I really want to do is for the people that are listening, every single one of us has a place where we don't feel good enough. Every single one of us has a place where no matter how the world sees us, we see ourselves as flawed or broken or injured or something like that. And I really want to allow you to become a spokesperson for yourself, to talk about what it actually felt like for you to feel different, not the public shame, so to speak, or whatever that would be, of trying to read and not being able to keep up. But what did that feeling feel like inside of you?
That you're less than everyone else.
Yeah.
That they can do what you can't do and you don't understand why.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if I'm seeing correctly, but are you even tearing up right now as you're saying that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
so touch on that for a minute, if you don't mind.
they keep teaching you stuff in school, and when you're sitting there, call it a daydream. I think anyone who daydreams a lot probably slips off in class and doesn't know what's going on. Then you catch back up to the now and you're like, wait, what's going on? I don't know what they're talking about. You feel like it missed you. And since they keep teaching the same way, even to this day, it's like it's something in you. You did it wrong and you internalize it that you're stupid and I just didn't feel good enough. And I think that was kind of the point of where I got into business is when I was at home, I was creative. My family nickname was Poncho. It was my grandpa's name. I'm the fourth. So anyway, they called me that. So Poncho was creative. He can just create a business out of nothing. Oh, he doesn't have a problem with focus. My mom would think because she'd see me in my room for hours developing a store, developing a business plan, doing some type of business. And then you'd have adults giving you praise for you being great at something. And that's what stuck. I never felt great at school. I was great at faking it. I was great at bullshitting my way through a class. So there was a time I hated the school system, especially when you get to high school and you're like, you found the way workarounds, you know how to work the system, and you see people who get praised for having A's, but you also see that they're cheating and they're doing other things. And I wouldn't cheat because I was like, why cheat? I mean, I already have to fake that I'm reading. Why cheat at all? Because what do these grades actually mean? So you start coming to the point of, I don't see a point of it. If I don't memorize it and don't remember it, I'm not going to keep it in life. But ironically, anything that had to do with business, even if it's something I hated, like accounting or any kind of that type of math, I would asphyxiate it to my dream is to own a business. So I need to learn this. My dream is to do this. I need to learn this.
So let me ask you on that, because it's really interesting. In business types things, did you have dyslexia in mathematics?
So let's go with what I understand as dyslexia is advanced spatial awareness.
Okay.
So
explain that, because even that concept, I don't know that people will understand. So
when you picture something, how do you picture it? When I have been a place one time, I can picture the whole entire room, the layout. I've seen it when I've talked to a designer or when we're doing something remodeling. You can picture every step of a 3D image of what you were in.
So you have a photographic memory
of 3D images, when not of school
not of written words,
not of written words, of spoken word. Okay. That's why I'm a fan of Audible. It's the spoken word, and it's also of a place I physically been. I can be there. That's why I say advanced spatial awareness is. We can get there later where I got lost a few times, but actually no, that's the best example. So when I was doing the research for this book, that's actually when I discovered I was dyslexic, because of all the commonalities that I shared my whole life, and I never was tested. And people who want to debunk me, I've had a few haters who say, well, you weren't tested. Well, it's still like 1 in 5 people have it. I think that
right.
I'm not making this up.
Right.
So when you go with that, I was lost a few years back as an adult. I get whatever, I got exploratory. I got lost in a foreign country and I found my way back, not knowing the language or anything. And that's what I fixated to the people who can find their way back with only being somewhere once. I said, oh my God, that's dyslexia. That has nothing to do with some cool will stuff. It was just like that, explaining if you're good at finding your way back. Another thing is,
hold it. Are you saying that people that are have dyslexia also have the ability to see spatially things in their environment that they can remember?
Everybody is a little different, and there's not one dyslexic alike. We just share common things. So that could be, for me, some dyslexics can see the spatial words, and they'll actually see behind the word, and it'll be all jumbled. And that's where I think people think, oh, that's backwards. Not every dyslexic reads backwards. But one of it is spatial awareness, and it was defined in like the dyslexic advantage, or in the gift of dyslexia. They talked about it more being the superpower, and being, well, I saw it as a superpower, but seeing something as an advantage. But for awareness, that's what I was saying, is like the spatial awareness.
The reason why I'm incredibly interested, and pardon me for interrupting you, is because my wife has some dyslexia, and yet she has visual memory that is unbelievable. She has exactly that quality that you say. Once she sees something, once she's gone somewhere or drives somewhere, she knows exactly how to get there again. And she can find other routes to do it because she knows exactly where it is spatially.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't get lost, does she?
She doesn't get lost. And I am, completely able to read and do everything. And you put me in a place, I don't know where north, south, east, west is, right? So one of the things and the reason why I want to highlight this in this conversation, if you don't mind,
mm-hmm.
is because sometimes the biggest things that we think are our shortcomings actually open up a door to something that is so much bigger for us than, and people call it superpowers, but I don't believe it's superpowers. I don't believe there's anything super about anything. I just believe that we have gifts. And some of your gift is to be able to see things in the ways other people can't see them. And some of your gifts are you're not able to see things the way people see them.
I guess another way to understand if spatial awareness, can you always know where north is when you're in a room?
No, I don't have any idea.
I can. And as we were talking about this, I drifted up above my head to visualize where I was spatially. And I know where Mount Rainier is and where the sun rises and sets. So I know north is that way compared to where it is at. And that's where my mind can go. I can go above the problem and float like spatially above where I'm sitting and see all around me, and then go, oh, I know where north is.
So let's pause right here for a minute. How do you perceive, knowing what you know right now, that you can do that? Knowing that, do you know that most people can't do that?
I would assume 4 out of 5 people can't. Yeah.
4 out of 5. Okay. So most people can't do that. As you teared up earlier in our conversation, it resonated on a feeling that you had about yourself, but somehow still is in yourself. I'm not good enough. They can do something I can't do.
I think that is where the more outspoken dyslexic are, or anyone who has a disadvantage, you'll start seeing later in life that they're more quote unquote successful. And there's different reasons why. I mean, like in one of the, I can't remember which one, but one, it said that 40% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic.
Wow.
And like 1 and 2 rocket scientists, like they started showing all these facts that I remembered, because like you think of a rocket scientist as being really intelligent, and it's engineers and architects go into that. And some may not have ever seen it as a problem because they had a lot of workarounds, and they actually told their parents, probably when I never told my parents. I just thought it was stupid. It wasn't an open conversation to say, hey, something's wrong here. I know it was addressed a few times, but where we were going to school, I think my parents thought they were paying for the education. I was getting the best. But for that, I see it now as an advantage. And I didn't go into bragging in my book because I knew that when it would turn off people. I wrote it for those who can't read. So I don't know every struggle.
I love that you wrote a book for people who can't read.
I am either crazy or it's genius, but it's one of those things where I've joked with people is, yeah, who's the one guy, this guy who would write a book about that? Because here's the title. If you see it, you get it. Right. Every person who's seen it, who struggles or knows someone who struggled, gets it right away. Yeah. And the snarky comments I've gotten over it, either online or in real life, were people who've never struggled. And if you struggle, you get it within a split second.
I don't believe that there are people who have never struggled. I believe that the people who give you snarky comments are the people that aren't vulnerable enough to talk about their struggles.
Thank you. That's Thank you for correcting that. That makes sense.
because I don't think anybody in the world hasn't struggled. And we all, and part of the reason why I was excited to have you on the show, and part of the reason why I had our 10-minute preview talk before we got on, was because I wanted this guy to show up. And sometimes other people promote you in a way that's different than the way you are. And I think who you are is exceptional. And that's just how you, if you just show up as you are, because suddenly what, and correct me if I'm wrong, like this is conversation, okay? I don't, just because I say it doesn't mean it's right. It could be dead wrong. What I see is, even up until 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, when those tears were coming into your eyes, they didn't come, you weren't flooding down tears, because people on the audio won't see anything, but we're videoing this and they'll see it on YouTube, or you'll be able to show it. Is there still some feeling in you that I'm not good enough, which is some feeling that's in all of us. All of us have that feeling,
Yes.
right?
Everyone has that feeling.
Every single one of us.
And
I wish I could say you're unique in that. And I wish I could say that's a fabulous quality for you to have. But here's the question. At what point do you realize that you are being not like other people doesn't mean that you're not good enough? It just means that you see the world differently than they do. What you're able to do is different than what they're able to do. They're not able to have the spatial awareness that you have. They're not able to have these incredibly visual ways of seeing a world that make up for the ways that you can't see in a printed word. And neither one of them is better and or worse.
I think the inadequacies, though, for me personally, come from internal. I know that, okay, it took me hundreds of books over the last 5 years to change my mindset, to become more open-minded, to not have so much anger, or find some reality of this moment's all we have. We're all going to die. We're not getting out of here alive, and we should treat people a little bit better. And I think if we could get over our own insecurities ourselves and just start learning from others, we could be much better. And the best way to learn is through someone else's eyes when they wrote about it. But if you put the word can't in your vocabulary, like those who say I can't read, then you're already stopping yourself from expanding your mindset. I think it's a real connection when you can relate with someone and you can look at someone's life who struggled like you have and say, oh, wow, he or she did it. Or for my case, I hope to inspire some youth to say, oh, he did it. I got someone I can look at. Because if you look at a billionaire and say he's dyslexic, or like Richard Branson, that disconnects people. Like no one thinks about how they become a billionaire. That's just like, oh, he did it. Well, it doesn't help me.
Right. So
I'm hoping more everyday non-billionaires are saying, this is how you could do it. It's helping.
Yeah. And pardon me for my sort of obscure way of seeing the world, which is spatially different than everybody else also. The real person that I would like you to convince, the real person that I would like you to model yourself as, so that the person inside of yourself could see that, is yourself. And I'm less concerned with you changing the world, because I know as soon as your belief systems change, you will change the world, because you will be unlike people. You will walk into a room and people will feel those belief systems are gone. So it isn't about what we can say to another person. It's a matter of who we are to another person. It's similar to what happened in the 10 minutes in our conversation before we came on air. I said tough things to you, but I think you felt it was from my heart. I think you felt there was no ill will there at all, that it was really sent as an invitation to you, not as a criticism to you. And you walked right into it. And look at the discussion we're having. Are you with me?
Yep, I'm with you.
So if in this podcast, one of the things that we can invite people to do and hold the space for people to do is worry less about changing the world and concentrate more on just feeling and elevating ourselves to who we are, who we really are, and allowing all the things we can't do to be just part of the beautiful mosaic that makes us, but to realize there are thousands of things we can do. And in doing those thousands, focusing on what those things are that we can do, everything changes. When we go from can't to can, life goes from terrible to beautiful. Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree with you. It totally does.
Okay. So you've talked a lot about your fears, the things that troubled you growing up. You talked about your anger and the things that happened of why am I like this? You hinted to it a little bit, but what was your biggest strength growing up?
I see. I immediately reverted to school, and I think creativity, I would say, my biggest strength.
So it's interesting to me that your place of weakness, which is school, that you talked about, like being in the school system, which was where you didn't talk about your being Pancho, the guy at home that was completely capable. You went back to the place where you felt was your weakest place, and you used that to find your strength. Let me ask you again, where was your what was the thing that people said to you outside, whether in school or outside of school, that was your greatest strength that you actually knew from inside when they said it, before they said it, that this is who you were? What did you feel about yourself? That this is my strength, this is my power? Or did the feeling of what you couldn't do override that to such a space that it was hard for you to even see your strength?
I think, well, going back and putting myself in that place, it would be who you'd become. My ability to think beyond the problem and know that it would one day be done, and I'd be able to be who I want to be.
And what gave you the strength to do that, knowing what you knew and feeling you were different and feeling you couldn't do certain things and knowing you were judged and knowing you were put down and knowing for not something that was totally out of your control, that you did nothing wrong?
I think for me, it was one of my friends. If you go to a friend and tell them your struggle and you're totally vulnerable, you'll find out that they'll give you, if they're a good friend, encouragement and give you examples that you can overcome it. And I think that was going to that one is that started changing things, and just stop identifying with the can't and just tell someone and then see where it goes. And I had a great friend who was one of my most intelligent friends, who kept giving me examples of things I should research or, just in conversation.
Yeah. So would you say it was your ability to be vulnerable that allowed you to see the world differently?
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I think when you're vulnerable and ask for honest help, like I need help with some schoolwork, and let's go back to school. There are kids who I will always remember who helped, who did the extra. They didn't have to. There is people who will help, and not focusing on the negativity was easier hindsight saying that. Yes, you would just focus on getting the problem solved. Like, I need help. Can you help me? And one thing that my buddy told me when we were in, I think high school, when I finally told him we went to different high schools, he told me and made me start realizing is like, you were able to ask for help at a younger age than most people would because they got it and you had no problem. So I guess from a strength, it'd be going to people, being vulnerable, saying, can you help me? I need help. And if you got to know, I guess it taught me grit, because I'd go to every kid in my class. We had 60, like go to someone. If they say no, go to the next one and go to the next one. Nope. Oh, nope. Can you help me? Nope. Learning rejection, I guess, at a young age. I call it from that because that's people's greatest fear, is fear of being rejected. But my greatest fear was public reading. So I was going to find any way to fake that. So it was going around and asking for help at a younger age.
Wow.
So talking to people, getting out of my comfort zone, because
So what's one thing you had to unlearn in order to learn what you learned?
Unlearn. My instant thought was phonetically reading. So learning was, here's the whole word, just say it a bunch of times. Because went to a private Christian school and we had to do memory work. So I think that's where I developed it, because I wasn't the first one to ever go. Those were the other kids. I was the one who heard everyone before me. Oh,
Right.
that word I don't know. Okay. Memorize. Just repeat it. I wasn't good at it. I didn't even get that great of grades in memory work, but it was one of those having to repeat a word over and over in my head to just say it. So I think I unlearned any kind of phonetic breakdown, which most people, if you can sound words out, you forget anyway. And what I didn't fully explain in my book is it happened in my 20s when this chain letter from the Cambridge study came out. It said all the words were jumbled up, and I remember reading it out loud and going, hey, I can read. I guess my system worked. And actually that false report that wasn't even real, which my point is you can research anything and find out it may not be real, but just go with the fact that it motivated you.
Yeah.
Got me to pick up a physical book and start practicing again in my 20s to do what I didn't do in school. And
so what I find really interesting about our conversation, and I'm interested if this is the way it is in your life in general, because we've known each other about 29 minutes, or maybe 39 minutes, because we're 28 minutes into the podcast, okay? And we talked for 10 minutes. Is that the majority of the podcast and the majority of the conversation has been around learning to read, reading, all of those things, even though the minority of the conversation that we've had is on these incredible abilities that you have of perseverance, of getting over rejection. And what would happen if you unlearned that you can't read? What would that allow you to learn?
Oh, well,
emotionally, mentally, spiritually, what would that allow you to, who would that allow you to be if the definition of yourself was no longer, hi, I'm Will, I can't read?
well, that was kind of the journey where I'm at now, because I've done so many workarounds that around 35-ish, I said, oh, I can read. Oh my God, all my workarounds worked. That's where that book idea was kind of birthed 4 years ago, was you overcome all this. And actually where it came out of was something that I was trying to solve at work. One of my companies, we were trying to raise the level of customer service. So I started making everyone read The Customer Rules by Lee Cockrell. And
Right.
I loved his journey. Just sum it up real quick, is he dropped out of college. So he had no college, formal higher education, but he used customer service and being nice to people to elevate his career throughout his whole life, to be a VP at Disney World for the end of his career before he retired. And I thought that would be great to help those people, because you're hiring young people who don't think they can make it in school, or they didn't make it in school, or I meant to say work. They don't think they can achieve their dream job. And I was pushing this idea of dream jobs there for a while. Where do you want to be after me? Because I'm just a parking space of your career, and then you can move on. And then I started making everyone read and making everyone read and making everyone read. And then someone said, one of the persons who've been with me a while said, we can't do what you can do. We can't read this many books. And it just like this rush came over me, like, oh my God, Will, who are you right now? And that was because I discovered the joy of reading at an older age and digesting book after book, and just mind blown every time of epiphanies and putting myself in so many different places.
So were you reading or were you listening to audiobooks?
Listening. And I really want to change the phrase that is reading. And of course, my confirmation bias is I found a legally blind copy editor who listens to 2 to 3 books a week, who
Right.
I say, I know someone, are you going to tell her she's not reading?
Right.
But I listen. One talk about superpower. One of the things that I discovered on my own was on audiobooks, I can listen to them at the highest speed. When I do YouTube videos, I can listen at the 2 times speed. And for a while there, before I knew what it was, I would even write Audible and say, hey, could you speed this up? Because I can digest it faster.
Wow.
Well, when you do your research, not all dyslexics share that, but it's something about audio learning. And so I can learn faster than anyone else. I can be 4 hours. What would take someone maybe 3 hours to read a book, like that Lee Cockrell book is a 4-hour book. I can digest it in an hour.
Wow.
And retained everything that I just learned. And for me, it was, I remembered every story ever told, read out loud to us in school, every story, but I couldn't remember everything I ever actually physically read.
Yeah.
And so that's another cool thing. I don't brag a lot in my book because I didn't want it to disconnect someone who doesn't understand that, because I want to meet another person who can listen to a book at a higher speed, because I wanted to do a little, let's listen to a book and call each other in an hour when it's done, because that's something that I've only read or listened, I guess, about other dyslexics, but I haven't found one.
But there are
that
people
was,
in the reading world, there are people that speed read, and they teach you how to speed read, and you can read full books, visually read full books. And so why wouldn't you be able to listen to a book and read a book? Okay. But what I want to do is I want to pause for a minute, and I want to invite our listeners to contemplate something, because I think something very rich is coming out in this conversation. I want to invite everybody who is listening to think of something they can't do, and to think of how many hours, how many years, how many months, how much time we've spent criticizing ourselves, putting ourselves down for what we can't do. And I want you then to switch over to because you can't do that, what you're able to do to compensate or to elevate what you can't do into something you can do, and what that gives you. For instance, and I'll just share this with you personally, because you've been so vulnerable. I have a daughter who's developmentally delayed. She can't speak. That doesn't mean she can't think. That doesn't mean she can't hear. That means she can't speak clearly. And so she tries and tries and tries and tries to communicate to people, but most people can't understand her. Because I've been her dad for 30 years, I understand her more often than I don't understand her. But sometimes I don't understand her. And when I don't understand her, she'll yell, thinking that if she increases the volume, I'll get it. But it isn't the volume, it's the clarity. When she yells and I still don't get it, she'll tantrum, because she gets so frustrated, she wants me to hear it. And she just can't get it through, so she'll throw a tantrum. And when her tantrum still doesn't get me to hear it, sometimes she'll come run at me and try and rip my shirt or bite me or do something to hurt me, because she wants me so much to get it and I can't. And what I realized when I stepped back from that for a minute is that every person I know does the same thing. When they speak and they don't get heard, they scream or they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they create a scene. And they create havoc. When that havoc doesn't work, they destroy something, whether that's a building, a country, a bomb, a marriage, a proposal at work, a company. It doesn't matter what it is. We all go through that same modality. And yet, because she can't speak, finally, after years and years and years of her doing that, and sometimes 5, 6, 7 times a day, I finally woke up and I said, Elisa, I bet you're trying to tell me something that I can't get. And she went from the midst of rage to this big smile, and she went, yes, Daddy. Yeah, that's right. And I said, how are you talking to me? And she put her hand to her side of her head. And what I got instantly was that she was putting thoughts into my head, that she was communicating to me telepathically, because she couldn't speak with her mouth. And I had known that, but I didn't trust it. Well, the ability to communicate telepathically is so much more advanced than the ability to communicate with our words. But most of us don't admire that or accept that or even believe that it's real. So she's frustrated most of the time because most people can't hear her. But when people would realize that she is putting her thought into your head and speaking to you as clearly in your mind as she would with her lips, and you can get that, they would see her entirely different. And so the moment we realized that, all of her tantrum stopped. All of her attack vehicles stopped. And it became my work now to learn how to listen to people in a way that they would actually be heard. When we don't have something, when we're not given the ability to do something, we're given another way of doing the same thing, which compensates, but also it can elevate the world around us to see the world differently. And I would like to invite our listeners right now to see, as you listen to Will's story, and you see that he took this thing that he was dealt, which he wasn't happy about, by the way. It doesn't sound like that he couldn't read, right? And he put himself down around it and did what everybody would do, right? We see our shortcomings and we just beat ourselves up for it. But he found a new way to develop and a new way to see things, a new way to listen, a new way to read through hearing. That was phenomenal. And he could read faster now than most people can read either verbally or visually. And so what is the ability that could come to you if you would accept the limitation and see that it's an opportunity, not a limitation? Does that make sense to you?
It makes completely sense to me. I appreciate you and thank you for sharing that.
It's my pleasure. So tell me, we've talked a little bit about your work. Thank you for your opportunity to let me share that with you, by the way, because I want one of the things I really want us all to see is we're not that different. All of us go through the same things, you know, in one way or another. We all go through it. Let's segue into what your work is now. What do you hope people will learn from the work that you're doing?
When I sought out to do this, there was a time when I was younger that I had a visualization of me conquering all this, being in business and, you know, of being able to give back to youth and reach out to them and talk to them. And they don't ever have to tell me, but be that inspiration, like the ones that inspired me, like the people would come to our classrooms and talk about their shortcomings and how they overcame it, helped me. I related and I knew that there was light at the end of the tunnel. I know that I can't reach everyone. I know I can't change the whole world, but if I can change a few lives along the way, then my struggle was worth it. And that's what I focused on sometimes as a young man, trying to say, well, what would it look like when you're finally there? What will it look like? You will be able to inspire. And I think when you talk about my businesses and stuff, there's been times that was me. Like I can show you the American dream works. And then the negativity comes and you said, hey, I got to let that go. And it's one of those, yeah, no, I have it. Just you and you used it as an example. When you're trying to do something that others can't figure out how you're doing it. And I use the word can a lot, but how did he just create that business out of nothing? How did he do that? How did he do that? Oh, I can do that. Like it's just, it sparks a jealousy, if you will, or an anger in other people. Not all.
Why?
I read it once is, okay, you took two chimpanzees and they were feeding one grapes and one cucumbers for the exact same task. And at one point, the one with the cucumbers revolted because it looked like someone else was getting the other one was getting a better deal. And they try to use that same example with humans. And that's the one that I always revert to is if it looks like someone's getting more, that's what your first perception is. He like I've heard it my whole life. The people talk down on people on social programs, the people who talk down on people who have businesses. And guess what? I've had it all. I've seen being the child of mom on food stamps to having my own businesses and paying more in taxes than anyone around me. Like I've seen every spectrum. And in the end, it sits me right in the middle to go, people just get mad for no reason at other people just trying to achieve their dreams. And they try to hold them down. And it's just, I don't get it. But the competitive nature is if it's a competition to win, you can only compete against yourself. You trying to keep up with the Joneses doesn't get you anywhere. You're just going to realize when you get there, like, why did I do all that? What is your why? I think when Simon Sinek wrote that book, Find Your Why, it made me think about that. And mine, why, you said, why am I doing this? Is to help those who don't feel that they're good enough to achieve what they're dreaming of their self when they see who they want to be. A lot of times they focus on what are you going to do when you get older rather than who do you want to be? Who is your character? Who do you see yourself when you look in the mirror?
Yeah.
So I'm doing it for those who I may never meet, but I can have an impact on, and that they can say I have some similar struggle with him and he changed his mindset and he did it. So I want to do it.
So let me ask you to go again. We can edit this out if it's a place you don't want to talk about, but there's something I feel because I have this innate ability to be able to feel people, which sometimes is great. Sometimes it doesn't mean because I feel it's right. So throw it away if it's not right. But there's sort of an agitation or an angst or an almost an anger that these people are doing this to me. There's almost like a victimization that comes of being somebody that people are always telling you can't do this or you can't do that. What would it take for you to give that up? What would it take for you to really change perception? Not only from the fact that you can't read to the fact that you can, but from the fact that there's nobody judging you or putting you down or competing with you, that you live in a cooperative world, that the only people that you draw to yourself will be people that will allow you and to will support you and you'll support them. What would that bring up in you? And how would you move from the perception of the world you see now to this new perception that there is no competition, there is nobody out to get you, there is nobody trying to steal your grapes because they're getting cucumbers, there is nobody that thinks that's better or worse. If they want your grapes, you know what? You share your grapes with them, and they share their cucumbers. And the two chimpanzees get along with each other because you say, "Hey, I'd like to taste what you have too."
I often question that same something similar to myself is what will it get to get humanity on the same page?
Forget about humanity. I want to talk about you.
Well, I think I'm bringing it up as a lot of examples of where I was, and if talking about now, it's that braggish side of I don't feel like I'm humble. I don't want to. When you're trying to promote something or help people, you talk about the struggle, and then you talk about the triumph, and you talk about the why of what got you motivated to get there. I realize people are going to have their misconceptions, and it doesn't matter. That's their life. That's their world. It doesn't draw me the way it probably would have as a younger man. I just have always been that person. If you tell me it can't be done, I go do it. And now I kind of took all the can'ts out of my life, and that was where I'm at. Who would I become? That's kind of where, if you wanted me to be totally honest, I'm at that place now where I've finally accomplished every big goal I've ever had in my life. And I'm at a point of, what do I do now? This is not really depression, but it's not sadness, but it's your whole life of working at something and you did it. And what do you do now?
Yeah.
And it's more of the being of now and being in the now. When you've spent the whole time of trying to achieve so many goals and you do achieve it all, it's that I'm in that Zen. I'm not Zen. It's in a place that I never thought I'd bring up on a podcast, but yeah, I'm in that place now where I'm like, crap, what do I do? You've had a whole life of struggle in your mind, or you made a struggle to make it a perseverance. You gave yourself that, even like you said, if you can tell that on me, I projected grit and determination sometimes to then get over the problem.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm at a place where I've done everything that I've ever projected that couldn't be done. And now I'm like, oh, what do I do now?
Yeah. But that's the flip. That's the time that the coin flips in the American dream. Because everybody believes that if I can only achieve, if I can only have, if I can only buy, if I can only live, if I can only do this sort of thing, that I'm going to be happy. And it does bring happiness for a little bit of time. I mean, you definitely, when you achieve something you think you could never achieve, you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
Until that point where you say, is this all there is? All of us do that. Doesn't matter if we have whatever we have. And so the only thing that doesn't give that feeling of satisfaction and dissatisfaction is when we actually become ourselves. When we actually say, how do I see the world now that's different than the way I've always seen the world? How do I cooperate with the world? How do I be? My wife and I always talk about this, like there are people that are just give, but they give for the enjoyment of people, of knowing they're giving. There are people that donate to corporations and cancer and things like that, so their name will be on the building. So they're really giving so that they get something, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a beautiful thing about a fruit tree, that its nature is just to bear fruit. It doesn't care if there's anybody below it or not. It drops its fruit when its fruit is ready. It doesn't care if there are good people below, bad people, if nobody's there and it just squashes on the ground. It doesn't lament any of that, because its nature is just to give of itself beautifully. and it just makes its fruit and gives it, and whoever's there gets it, and whoever isn't there doesn't get it. And the fruit tree is no better or worse for people eating its fruit or not eating its fruit. And there's a certain peace that comes to that when you know who you are and what you do. And maybe the coincidence of us talking here is not a coincidence, because maybe the space for you to go from is not that you can't achieve things, because you see you can do whatever you set your mind to do. And the message you give is so beautiful, that coming in with these things that people said I would never amount to anything, and look what I've amounted to. But at a certain point, you no longer need to prove that to yourself anymore. And you no longer need to prove it to other people, because what you're doing proves it already. So what is it that you haven't been able to do internally? What is it? What's the fight that you're fighting that you no longer need to fight?
I think it's the biggest hang up where you got me real deep was you can't go back. You can't undo hurtful things you said to loved ones. You can't fix the past. So what I can do is put my failures out there and my mistakes so that people can learn and not make the mistakes that I've made. And I think that's kind of my focus has been, now that this book's out, is to help others, not just read, but to get to this point that we're talking about. This conversation we're having, I would, in a hypothetical world where I gave up on the idea of reading, you and I never would have met.
Right.
I would never have been to the mindset of being able to wholly accept all your feedback is non-critical, but only growth mindset. And that takes a lot of learning to be able to get to that point.
Yeah.
But those are things that I won't ever be able to do, is go back. I mean, the other thing about the spatial awareness is I can always go back and see my late father and the memories I have with him, because that's how my mind works. I don't have a timeline. I can just go.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be a guy who dwells on what has happened or the memories of someone gone. And I don't want to be a futurist of who I'm going to become. I just want to be in the now.
Yeah.
So I think that's what moving forward is. Now that you've spent so much time dwelling to get you to the future, you're in the future, instead of being sad that you're in the future and it's not what you projected all the time, is just to be in the now and exist. Like, it was interesting that you said that a tree doesn't question its existence.
Mm-mm.
No other animal, I think, on this planet questions its existence. It's us that has this mindset to question some existence and put thoughts on blame, if you will, or on that. I just want to make 100% clear, especially if you haven't ever read my book or whatever. I've never blamed anyone for my own reading. It was so internalized that that's where it was.
Yeah.
It was right in here.
Yeah.
So it never, I didn't have that blame mindset.
Yeah.
Of it was this, it was that, it was this or that. And I think,
so the place that I would love to, because I want to segue, because we're getting to the end of where our time together, unfortunately, because I think I could talk to you for the rest of my life and be happy. Right. But you did blame someone. You sort of blamed yourself.
mm-hmm.
And what I think is, when we stop thinking of ourselves as someone, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to like, what I would love to see as you move forward is you not talk about your failures. You not talk about your troubles. You not talk about your thing. You talk about the vulnerable life that you've lived and the successes that you've achieved, and the ability for anybody to do what you can do because you're just like them. And that's your power. But when you go into the valley of our troubles, and you build a house there and you live there, instead of realizing you come out, it's harder to get back out because you have your house there. And I'd like to see you destroy that house there, and just go there, take people to your valley, and then bring people to your liberation, and build a community there where people can celebrate. Because everybody has their valley, and however they come to your community of celebration, they come to it and they celebrate with you, from all valleys around the world, because valleys are not where we live. Valleys are dips or where not where we live. We live in the freedom of a life together. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So how I end every question, every podcast is I ask people, when you look at the world that we live in today, is this the world you always dreamed of handing over to your children and your children's children?
No.
Okay. So how come?
Well, let me give you one example. I overreacted once when we had a wildfire and I saw this pollution in the air and I looked at my daughter and I said, I am sorry we gave you this world.
Yeah.
And then it flew away, but I guess it took a couple of days, but it was one of those, that was my first reaction looking up at the pollution. That was the first thought like that. But I also think about if that's the negative where you go to negative first, because we're trying to survive. I think the positive would be from where I am right now. Yes.
Okay. But let's stay where you were, because I believe that unless we realize that this world is not the world we want to hand over to our kids, we won't do anything to do it, to change it. So what would be one thing out of all the learning you've done, out of all the obstacles that you've overcome, out of all the stuff that you've done, what's one thing you would say to people that would help them to recreate the world they live in, to make it a world that they would want to hand over to their kids, that would make your world one that you would want to hand over to your kids? What's one thing, only one thing, that you would suggest they do?
Take a step back from all your problems that are created by man or woman and just look at the beautiful side of what nature actually provides.
Love that. Love
When you can, yeah, and that's just look around you, just look at the seasons, look at everything that was created or evolved to be where we are, not what people have done. Like you helped me throughout this whole podcast, stop focusing on what has happened, even internalizing, but to help the listener to full circle on that is just look outside. The sun's shining. We're still here. The wind blows. It brings stuff. There's a balance in the whole world for us to exist. And when we stop internalizing and start looking, we can see the beauty.
Beautiful. So, Will, if people, and I imagine people are going to want to know more about your book and more about the work you do and all of that stuff, I hope I'm going to encourage them to do so. How would they go about finding out more information, or how can they get your book, or where should they go to find out more about you?
I did it simply as ican'treadthebook.com.
ican'treadthebook.com. Okay.
And then there's some links there. And actually, I'm giving away books. If I have a little sign up if you want to get a chance to win a free copy. That's the business competitive side of me, is like, I want to win, so let me enter my name.
Okay.
And I don't mind giving it, because anyone who struggles, who really wants a copy, I don't see if someone wants a free copy why they wouldn't read the book.
Yeah. Fabulous. I want to thank you for taking this time, because I know you have busy days. I want to thank you for your vulnerability in being here, not only just giving your time, but giving of yourself. And I really want to encourage our listeners now to take a moment and sit with this podcast. Take a moment and get away from yourself, like Will just suggested. Step back. See your life differently than you've seen your life. Don't look at all the things that you can't do. I love one thing he said, that all the can'ts in my life are gone. Can you imagine a world where all the can'ts in your life are gone? Walk with him and allow him to show you the cans. For those of you who are listening and like this, I would love it if you gave it a good review. I would love it if you contacted me or Will, both of us who are here to support you and help you and hold the space for you to become your true self. And until the next podcast, I want to say to you, live connected, live free, and live knowing who you are. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here, Will. Thank you to the listener for being here. We love and honor you both. Thank you. See if I can.